Hi, everybody. So today we're going to cover chapter 1. And in this particular chapter, we'll cover the limits, alternatives, and choices. So again, as we record these chapters, if you guys have any question, I have a session every Thursday that we can, you guys write those questions down and ask me during Thursday session. Okay, so let's get started. So in this chapter, we will cover economic perspective, how economists view things. We will look at economic theories, principle, and model of the model that we have. We will discuss more of the model of economic model at the end of the semester. So we'll make a distinction between macroeconomics and macroeconomy. We will look at or explore the individual economizing problem and also go through illustration. We'll do the same thing with a society economizing problem using production possibility curve. At the end of the chapter, we make see a scenario of unemployment and economic growth, and also how the decision we make today impact the future. So what is economics? We define economics as a social science concerned with making optimal decision under condition of scarcity. Basically, what we try to say here is there's a limitation. The resources are limited, so we had to make a good use of them. So anytime we make a decision using the scarce our limited resources, we had to make sure that we make the best possible choice based on the information we have in front of us. You can see that the society wants exceed the society productive capacity. So anytime you undertake something using the scarce resource, you have to make sure that you use them wisely, right? Because using them is something that you take away from other people. Other people could use the same resources. So economic perspective, a viewpoint that shows how individual or institution making a rational decision by weighing the marginal benefit and marginal cost. Here, I want to bring your attention to the term marginal here. It's look at it as extra. When you undertake a particular business or a process, what is the extra benefits you are getting by doing that process compared to the extra cost you're gonna occur by doing the same process? So you will see here that people say most of the time that this doesn't work. It's not worth it. Whatever you say that, it means that you already weigh the marginal benefit and the marginal cost of the action. That's why you come down to the conclusion that this doesn't worth your time or doesn't worth the money. Again, here the idea is based on the scarcity, the limitation of the resources we have. And we must make a choice. Anytime we want to do something, we always have to make a choice, choosing between different alternatives. And anytime you make a choice, what you had to forego to make that choice, that represents a cost, which we refer to as opportunity cost, right? Here in mind is that whatever you undertake, anything or any decision we make in life, the ultimate goal is to increase our satisfaction. For businesses, is to increase the profit. For consumer and the household, is to increase your satisfaction, what we refer to here as a utility. The scarcity and choice here, we already pointed out, resources that we have available are scarce. That means that we had to make a choice. And anytime we choose something, means that we have to forgo something because we cannot get it all. That's what economy refers to as there's no or a free lunch, right? Somebody may treat you with a lunch, but think about it. To produce that lunch, it costs society resources, time, and also raw material to be able to produce that lunch. It may seem like it's free to you because you are not paying, but overall, if you look at the big picture, it costs society something to produce that lunch, even though it costs you also to go and eat that lunch, even though you are not paying, it costs you time to go over there, sit in the restaurant and eat, because you could be doing something else with your time, but you have to forego that thing to be at the restaurant. So the purposeful behavior here is the rational self-interest. Here, I want to point out that the rational self-interest is different from the concept of selfishness, right? Individual, we have a utility. We have our self-interest is to satisfy or to maximize our satisfaction when we undertake anything. For businesses is to maximize the profit. So for any activity that we will take due to the scarcity of resources, we always have a purpose in mind, a desired outcome, where I want to be, right? So we are in this class now, the majority of you have in mind where they want to be. So they need the skills that will help them to be at that level, right? So you have a desired outcome in mind, and based on that, you use the scarce resources to be able to help you to achieve that particular goal. So marginal analysis, which I already alluded to earlier, is to compare the marginal benefit and the marginal cost to be able to decide if a particular activity is worthy of doing it, right? So theories, principles, and models of economy. We define economy as a social science that is concerned with making optimal decision under condition of a scarcity. So here you will see that the economists to come up with the economic law, theory, and principles. Economists follow a scientific methodology, a scientific method or methodology. That's the same step followed in science, right? To come out with the theories. So you consist of observation. You observe a phenomenon and you formulate assumption based on your observation. Now you have to test those assumptions. You test a multiple time in multiple setting. And if it comes down that it's true, you accept it. But if it's not true, you reject it. You have opportunity to modify those assumptions and retest it and redo it until it becomes true. Once it becomes true for the average people in multiple settings, so you conclude that or you generalize your observation, and you can formulate a law. And we'll talk about the law of demand and law of supply. You see that those laws to come up to be a law today, economists follow those principles by testing those assumptions and make sure that it's right in a multiple setting, right? And it's right to the majority, to the average people, and you generalize it. So one thing I want to point out here when we come to generalization of the observation and make it to principle, you only have to take in mind that if it's two variables that you want to see the relationship between those variables, anything else that is not rolling into your study, the main variable that you want to study, anything that is not rolling into them, you have to assume that those variables are constant so they don't influence your study. So a ceteris paribus is the assumption that I will refer to throughout the semester. So other thing equal, right? Other thing equal, everything held constant, I want to study the price and the quantity. So I'm not going to look at anything beside those two variables, like a color, like the future. I just want the price and the quantity. Okay, so we will, going forward, we're going to look at the principle and the law, and we're going to look at the table with the real data, and also look at the visual, which is a graphical expression of that particular theory that we're going to look at. But before we do so, let's take time to make a distinction between the study of microeconomics and the macroeconomics. So the micro is defined as the study of individual consumer, a firm, or a market. We narrow out the scope of our study to one entity, right? While the macro is more like a broad study. We are concerned with the entire economy, or we are concerned with the major aggregate of the economy. One good example of I can make the analogy, the macro study can be compared to the study of a beach. You know that a beach you have from the sea to the sand and the rock, anything on the beach, you study the entire beach. That would be the study of macroeconomy, MA. While the study of microeconomy will be a study of the sea on the beach, for instance, or the sand or the rock. So you narrow the scope of your study. So distinction between normative and a positive economic argument. So the positive economy is concerned with a statement of fact, right? It's more objective. Unemployment rate is 3.2%. So if it's true that unemployment rate is 3.2% this year, everywhere you go, every economy paper you look at, it's the same thing. Everybody can go and verify that fact. It's a fact. One normative economic argument is more subjective to whoever is holding that particular argument, right? So normative economic argument involve our value judgment, what ought to be, right? One good example of normative would be, well, let's say that we have a surplus. Well, I might say, well, my view, the surplus we have, we can use it for social program, right? Another person might say, well, the surplus, we can use it to finance our military. Another person may say, well, we can use it to maybe give everybody or going to community college free. So we can make our community college free so that people can be affordable, it can become affordable for people to go to college. So everybody can have their taken into that particular, or everybody can have their say in that particular topic, right? It doesn't mean it's wrong, it's just your viewpoint. So economizing problem that we pointed out before. What is economizing problem, right? Economizing problem is due to the fact that the resources are limited, but our wants are unlimited, right? So we must make a choice. And again, anytime you make a choice means that there's something you have to forego. And that thing that you forego to make that particular choice, it costs you something, which is the opportunity cost. So we're gonna illustrate economizing problem, individual economizing problem, using a budget line so that you can see that anytime we make a choice, there's a trade-off, okay? So if you look at the schedule I have here and the graph, so let's say in this schedule, our budget is 120. And in this particular economy, we have only two goods, movies and books, right? So you have a different alternative here, right? Or with the budget you have, you decide to buy 6 movies, so you don't have no money left. Or you trade off, right? 1 movie, right? To buy, instead of 6 to buy 5, and you gain 2 books. So you see, if you see the same logic all the to the end, you will see that it's always a trade-off, right? You give something to get something, and it's due to the limitation of the resource in our case over here, the limitation of the budget that we have. So if we get the table or the schedule we have, we put it to the graph, you will see that the budget line is the blue curve that we have over here. And here, 2 areas, they are attainable. With the budget we have, we can attain any combination that represent this yellow triangle, right? But anything above the budget line, it become unattainable for you. With the budget you have, you cannot attain anything that exceed the budget line. We will come back to the budget again, the budget line again, and to explain it a little deeper. Global perspective, this gives you per capita income as of 2017 for a selected nation. So now that we talk about individual economizing problem, let's explore society economizing problem. The logic is the same. Here we have our 4 main economic resources: land. Under land, we have all the natural resources used in the production process. And land is all those physical action. Land regroup all the natural resources. The second one is labor. Labor, we have all those physical action or mental activity that people contribute to the production. Capital, investment, right? That will ease the future production. And entrepreneurial ability is specific and is distant from the labor, right? So we will make a distinction between that and the labor. You see that entrepreneur have a different skill. They are the one who take all the rest of the factor of production or resources, they combine it in the way that they achieve the desired outcome. And doing that, they will take initiative, they will take risk, they will make a big decision to be able to achieve that desired outcome, right? So the difference between the entrepreneur and the laborer: entrepreneur are the one who bear the risk. Entrepreneur got to make sure the laborer and the supplier all get paid. And if money left, well, entrepreneur will be happy, but if nothing left, entrepreneur will go without it. That's what the entrepreneur is a risk taker. Is the one who's gonna have to use the rest of the resources to make sure that the business achieve the desired outcome, which is in general maximize the profit. So we're gonna illustrate a society economizing problem using the production possibility model. Right here, we make some assumption here, right? The economy model shows different combination of 2 goods that the economy can produce. But before we look at the PPC, production possibility curve, the assumption we make is we are in full employment, fixed resources, fixed technology, and again, it's a simplified economy, which is 2 goods that we can produce: the consumer good and the capital good. Okay, here we make those assumptions. Again, I pointed out to you earlier that they said other things equal. So we don't want anything to change while we are doing the study. That's why we hold resources fixed, technology fixed, and we know that it's full employment. So same thing, if you look at it, the schedule of the production, show you the production alternative for the 2 products that we have, right? A consumer good, example of a pizza, and industrial good, here we have a robot. Capital good, here we have an industrial robot for capital good. So if we take, again, with all the resources you have, you can choose to produce at A, when you are not producing any pizza, but you use all the resources to produce industrial robots. Or you can be between A, B, C, D, and you can be between A and E, right? But The logic is still the same. If you want to produce more of a piece, you have to give away the production of industrial robot. More of one particular product you produce, you have to give away something, a unit of the other product. So take this schedule, you can plot it here and look at a production possibility curve, which is non-linear as when we look at an individual economizing problem. But again, the logic here is still the same. So we can, with all the resources we have in our assumption, we can produce it, anything up to the blue schedule or the yellow area here are attainable. We can attain it based on the resources we have. But anything outside of the PPC become unattainable to us at that particular time. Unless the economy grow, we find a better way, we change technology, we change any of the assumption, things can change. So the law of increasing opportunity cost. So this law is one of the explanation of the concave form of the PPC when we talk about society economizing problem. So basically, the more of a good you produce, it will come to a level when the marginal opportunity cost of that good will increase. The logic behind it is if you keep producing a particular good, you get to a certain point where you're going to exhaust all the excess capacity that you have. Once you exhaust that and you keep producing, now you're going to have to invest. And any investment will cost you additional money. You have to give away something to be able to keep expanding, right? Which is the law of increasing opportunity cost. So now we move to look at where is the optimal, how we know that we are producing the optimal quantity and at what price. And we determine that optimum output with the equality marginal benefit, equal marginal cost. You have to do the marginal analysis. Whatever we have equality between the marginal benefit and the marginal cost, that's where you know that you are producing at the optimal output. Okay, so we'll refer to it later when we talk about equilibrium and all those things. So here, our marginal cost is probably represent like a supply curve. We'll talk about it. Don't worry about it. We're gonna talk about that later. And the marginal benefit is the downsloping curve, the blue one. So both intersect at a point called E. And at that point, you know that you are producing the optimal output. So in our case here, the optimal output is to produce 200,000 of pizza at a price of $10, right? Anything outside of the output E, it will generate a surplus or a shortage. Okay, so we can here, let's look at the case of unemployment and growth and a decision for future. You guys recall when we make our assumption for the production possibility model, we put the variable that we are not concerned of it. We assume that those variables are constant. So let's assume now that any of those variables change, right? So we discover better technology, or we discover more resources. How that would play with our production possibility curve, our production capacity. You can see that there's what we used to be before, but once one of those assumptions change, a change in the good way, that helps us to produce more, right? It could be that we found a better technology. It could be that we discover more resources. But now we used to produce up to the first PPC, production possibility curve. Now we have more flexibility. We have more layout that we can produce all the way to the second production possibility curve, right? So we have more flexibility, we can produce more, so the economy grow. Another way to say, you can see the concept of grow by changing any of those assumptions. So I said before that the choice you make today with your resources can determine where you're gonna be in the near future, right? So in these two graphs over here, I show you the present example of a hypothetical example of present Ville and future Ville. So both of the economy use their resources differently or allocate their resources differently. The present Ville allocate most of the resources to produce a present good, while the future Ville use the majority of the resources to produce a future good, like a capital good. So you will see that in the future, both economy gonna grow, right? The present Ville grow, but the future Ville grow more than compared to the present Ville because of the decision to make today by using the more of the resource, allocate more of the resources to capital good, which is a future good. It help them to be or to increase the economy faster than someone who use the resources on the consumer good or present good, because present good it will do for the present, but it doesn't do anything for the future. Okay, international trade is another way we can utilize or maximize the use of resources, right? By specializing ourselves in the area when the opportunity cost is gonna be less, right? One good example is if you have to produce a good in an area when the resource is available to you, want to produce over there, why? Produce in an area when you had to destroy or you had to invest more money or more opportunity cost to be able to produce the same resources, right? One good example of if you want to produce anything related to capital, the capital already exists in our economy. You can produce it here. But if you want to produce anything that is labor related, manpower related, you want to produce in the area when you have a labor available to you, like China, right? Anything related to land, you want to produce in Africa or in Mexico because there's plenty of land over there. Okay, all those things by doing it, it will increase your production possibility. Well, the last word of the chapter, which I will recommend you to read at your own time, just read it and see. This is give you an example of Starbucks, how Starbucks from one single store today become like a global coffee shop, not just in the United States, but they are all over the place, right? By making a good decision using marginal benefit and marginal cost analysis to make a key decision, right? So here, ranking selection of location, determining location saturation so they can move to another location and setting the menu, right? Okay, that's the end of this chapter 1. And again, as we're going through the lecture, I will put a PowerPoint in the Moodle room. And if you have any particular question, the science, the meeting that we have, which is optional because this class is online. So you can write those questions down and ask me during the 1 hour that we're gonna spend on Thursday. Thank you very much.